Shawn.
Sorry, hey, I had to clear my throat.
Oh, Jesus
I'm sorry.
Jesus Christ.
Hey,
Shawn?
Mike?
What is this? A crossover episode? Yowza, yowza, bo bowza. You thought I'd forget about the yowza, didn't you?
I forgot about the Yowza.
Yeah, that threw you for a loop. Hello, everyone. Welcome to What Is This, a Crossover episode, the Bojack Horseman podcast, where the Squid Boys, me and Shawn, hi Shawn.
Hi, Mike.
We're going through Bojack Horseman. Shawn's first time, my millionth time. I love this show. This show's great. If I could bathe in this show, I would do it.
I don't know how that would work.
That actually would be unhealthy, I think. I think it'd be like this show is pretty, tough sometimes as far as, it makes you sad. So maybe I don't want to bathe in it. Anyway.
It makes me sad.
So today we're doing Season 2, Episode 7, Hank After Dark, which aired July 17th, 2015, Shawn. And as tradition around here at What Is This Crossover episode, we like to tell you what happened on that day 8 years ago. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. 8 years ago. Not quite. 7 and 7/8 or something. Anyway.
You want to pause so you can do the math and then we can pick back up?
No, I don't care.
Okay, just making sure.
Big historical event that happened on that day. Marvel's Ant-Man, starring Paul Rudd as the titular character, is released. Congrats to Paul. Great guy. Scientists solve mystery of sleeping sickness in 2 villages in northern Kazakhstan. Uranium mining had caused increase in carbon monoxide. What a mystery.
One of history's greatest mysteries.
A suicide bomber in Iraq kills 120. ISIS claims responsibility. Always love reading that one. Jules Bianchi, I'm probably saying his name wrong, French auto racer, died from injuries during an accident at the 2014 Japanese F1 GP at age 25. That's terrible.
That's really sad.
Owen Chadwick, English historian, priest, and university chancellor, dies at age 99. You know what?
God, I still should have made it to 100. It's just a skill diff.
It is a terrible thing to happen. And then
it's the most terrible thing to happen in the list of things that you read.
No, I wouldn't agree. Kind of related, on the music charts, the #1 song in the U.S. was "See You Again," Wiz Khalifa featuring Charlie Puth, which of course, that song was dedicated to the late Paul Walker.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So,
maybe
we can dedicate it to the people who died in this. And then Black Magic by Little Mix was the #1 song in the UK. Oh, God, I hate this segment.
At some point, can you rack up the body count? Can you just count it off of all the people that have died in this segment?
Oh, did we have people die in last season's segment?
I think so.
Who died?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't really care to figure that out right now.
No,
anyway,
no,
Shawn,
right
what
now.
did you think of Hank After Dark? It got an 8.2 out of 10 on IMDb.
I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. Full disclosure, I've watched this episode a week ago.
Same.
So it's not as fresh in the old noggin as some of the other episodes have been. But one thing that really stuck out to me. Yeah, one thing that really stuck out to me. When did you say this episode came out?
This episode came out July 17th, 2015. So
2015.
I think I know what you're going to say. This was well before the Me Too movement.
Yes, this was before the Time's Up and Me Too movements, before the Harvey Weinstein, Bill O'Reilly stuff. Mm-hmm. And this is very, I mean, that's what this is, right? This episode is very much about all of that.
So basically what happens, and we'll get to it more later, but Diane brings up that Bojack did some bad things, but there are a lot of celebrities that did bad things that didn't hurt their career, and she lists off a bunch of real people that presumably have had these issues, and then Hank Hippopopoulos, who is, of course, a fictional character that we've met, but this is based on something that actually happened in 2014 that kind of slowly kicked off that Me Too movement.
Okay.
And it was Hannibal Buress during one of his stand-up routines in 2014 had this routine go viral where he talks about Bill Cosby and how Bill Cosby, and he said, hey, if you guys, because people were like, whatever, yeah, no, Bill Cosby didn't do that. And he goes, no, if you don't believe me, Google Bill Cosby rape.
Okay, yeah.
And it led to, like, that's when that started to kick off is, it resurfaced decades of allegations of sexual assault by 60 women against Bill Cosby, which people were kind of not
aware
not
of,
privy to. Yeah. They definitely took inspiration from that moment to do this. Diane kind of does the same deal. She's not doing stand-up, obviously, but she goes, hey, no, Google it, like the Hank Hippopoulos has done a lot of bad things. And so it is definitely ahead of its time a bit. Because when did Me Too kind of kick off? Was that
2017, 2018?
Yeah. So I remember when this Bill Cosby thing happened because people were, it was treated for whatever reason. It was treated like an isolated incident, right? It was like, oh, Bill Cosby did these things.
Yeah.
Where it's like, no, there's like, and it took some time for that really to start gaining steam and go, hey, there's a lot of bad things that are happening in Hollywood and other places that are common knowledge, but you guys just are ignoring it, right? And so that's kind of where that movement came from. But I'm not going to say that Bojack Horseman started it.
No.
But it definitely was ahead of its time in talking about these kind of things and bringing levity to those situations while also still being like a funny show. It's very tough to do. This is, to me, I know you said this episode's all right. I just think this is one of the most impressive episodes they do because it doesn't. It's easy when you talk about something like this to just be like, this is preachy and this is like, like stare at the characters stare at the audience on the screen, right? And it doesn't ever feel like that. It's still like entertainment, but it's like still delivering a good message in a funny and thoughtful way, and that I really do like this episode. It's not my favorite or anything, but I think it does that really well.
I think what's really impressive about this episode to me is that, like, I guess I don't really know how this played in 2015, but I imagine that a lot of this plays as over the top when you haven't had the experience of the last 8 years. Right. Whereas right now, this is an extremely accurate episode to reality.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, for sure.
It really doesn't feel that over the top.
No, they nailed it. Like and you can tell, and we've talked about how a lot of the commentary in this show is like based in like show business commentary, like Raphael Bob Waxberg, like really, you can tell he's been in the industry for a while and has these things he wanted to say, and that's part of the show was probably some catharsis for him, and this was probably a big point of that.
I think even down to how people will react to these accusations and claims.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was just, and there's some lines in this episode where you're like, that's crazy talk. Like somebody would never say that to defend this horrible thing.
But they do.
They absolutely do.
I mean,
in real life, like, so I don't know if that hits different now than 2015, because I feel like now, especially now, it's like everybody fucking. I mean, I guess they had this in 2015 as well, but it wasn't as clear. Everybody has the fucking stupid microphone that they can just say whatever they want, and you got to hear it. Like,
yeah. Well, and it's like, I mean, even right now, not to date when we're recording this episode, but like right now, the big thing is like, Donald Trump's gonna go to jail.
Oh,
and there's all these people that are just like, he doesn't deserve that.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's the sometimes, sometimes I feel like the invention of social media was a mistake.
Yeah.
Because everybody has a megaphone now, and they can just yell stupidity into the void, and you have to hear it sometimes.
And I mean, this episode also nails the idea of just like in regards to what you're saying, right? This idea that people accept their own reality. like with the Donald Trump stuff, countless of videos online of people being like, "Hey, here's what people have said about this. Here's what people close to him have said about this." People are like, "I don't believe it. That's fake."
Right.
You know, like I don't believe it. Like I refuse to believe what you're telling me is factual, and I am inserting my own facts into it.
Well, and
you know,
also you throw in the fact that like the news cycle is obsessed with things like this when there's like, not to say that's wrong, but they're talking about Sokovia a lot in this episode.
Sokovia? Do you mean Cordovia?
Or did I say Sokovia?
You said Sokovia.
Cordovia.
They're talking about the Sokovia Accords during this episode.
They're talking about Ultron. Cordovia.
Yeah.
And how, there's just people, this Prince Gustav is a terrible person and da-da-da-da. But let's get back to how much I hate Diane.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And what's her deal?
It's definitely, yeah. I mean, it's like... I'm sorry to continue to make the podcast more real, but it's like when the January 6th hearings were happening, and Fox News is like, "Let's talk more about Hunter Biden's laptop."
Right, exactly,
exactly. It's like, wait, what about this other thing? No.
Well, and I think we kind of attribute that stuff a lot of the time to like fringe like people like Alex Jones and stuff. But it's like, no, like the real media does this.
Oh,
you know
absolutely.
What I mean? It's not just the guy that's screaming about the frogs, turning the frogs gay. You know what I mean? They really try to distract you from what their agenda is. And it's crazy. Anyway, I could go into like conspiracy theory stuff, but I don't think that's the right call for this podcast yet.
Probably not. So let's wait a couple seasons.
Yeah, let's dive into the episode. We open up at the Animals' Choice Award, not the People's Choice Award.
Yeah.
And presenting are Scott Wolf and Matthew Fox.
They are wolf and a fox.
But Scott Wolf is a fox and Matthew Fox is a wolf.
I didn't pick up on that.
Yes. And Scott Wolf is actually voiced by Scott Wolf. But he's doing this like fucking stupid like wolf voice. But they present for I want to say it's comedy starring an animal. And they show, horsing around. He goes, "That's what I call horsing around." And then they show Mr. Peanut Butter's house, which is just
the exact same fucking show. That's what I call
dogging around. It's like an exact copy.
Yeah.
And then they show Hank After Dark, which is presumably a nighttime talk show, where they do the role reversal. Typically, there's like a monkey crawling on a talk show host, and he's like, "Yeah, get it off me!" But it's an actual human baby, which I thought was pretty clever.
Yeah.
And Hank wins. He wins the award, and we're at the after party, and it's Bojack's there, and Mr. Peanut Butter approaches him, and Bojack's, this is in the past, obviously. I don't know if I mentioned that. This is in the past, and I don't know if it's the first time they met, but
this is okay. No, not that. But this is the first time.
And Mr. Peanut Butter.
This is the first time something else is mentioned, though.
Right. It is the what Shawn is alluding to is Uncle Hanky arrives at one point, and it is the impetus of what is this, a crossover episode? Because Uncle Hanky says that to them, and Mr. Peanut Butter goes, "That is the funniest thing I have ever heard."
That is also not what I was talking about. I was talking about this is the first time, or I don't know. This is the first time. Like it might have been mentioned, but this is the first time that we see Mr. Peanut Butter's ex-wife.
Oh, Katrina Peanut Butter?
Yeah.
Played by Lake Bell.
Oh, I didn't know that. But also, she leaves. Like she's there talking, or I guess when Mr. Peanut Butter goes up to Bojack, she's there, and she walks off, and she's like, "Erica, throw me a raft or something," as she walks off.
She does the Erica for the first time, yeah.
So
a lot of firsts here in this flashback.
Erica is around back then too.
Yeah, good for Erica. Bojack and Uncle Hanky have a conversation where he goes, "Hey, you're funny, but you can't beat Uncle Hanky."
Mm-hmm.
So they're just kind of setting up that character.
He's not Uncle Hanky, yeah.
He's not Bill Cosby,
no,
right? They didn't they didn't say, hey, we're going to go strictly for Bill Cosby, even though that's like probably the thing that inspired this writing. But he's like I'm trying to think of a real life.
To me, he seems more like Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah, but more like by way of Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right? Like,
he's not a traditional news host. He's a late night host, but there's a lot of like, I feel like there's a lot of similarities to the Bill O'Reilly stuff, which is part of the reason why, because that didn't happen for a couple years after this. Part of the reason why I was like, man, this fucking shit is prescient.
Right. He's played by Philip Baker Hall.
Okay.
And on IMDb, someone hypothesized that the use of Philip Baker Hall as the voice of Hank Hippopoulos might be a reference to his role as Jimmy Gator in Magnolia, where he played a game show host that sexually abused his daughter and was having an active affair with his secretary. So they're saying, hey, that's why they cast him as a terrible person, because he's played a terrible person before. I don't know IMDb, maybe. Seems like a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd mention it.
It's like if they cast you as a serial killer in a movie, you know?
I'm sorry, me?
Yeah.
Why me?
Because, you know.
No, I don't. I don't know. Could you?
Because life experience and all that, you know?
No, I don't. I don't have any experience.
Look, Mike, only a serial killer would come up with the on this day bit.
No, I don't think so, because I think you came up with the bit. Anyway, and actually, no, I know who came up with the bit, and it wasn't me.
Damn, unfortunate.
It was so I'll tell you the history of the bit right now, Shawn.
Okay.
I'll lay it out there. So originally, I recorded 5 or 6 episodes of a podcast with my friend Jameson called First Watch.
God, I'm so jealous.
Where it was Game of Thrones podcast, because I've never watched Game of Thrones. It's similar to what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And those episodes actually aired on different days, and that was one of his things. He, as the host of that show, he was like, "Oh, what happened on this day? What was the number 1 song?" You know, stuff like that. And then when we were doing this one, I was like, "Hey, it'd be really funny if we did this, because it's a Netflix show, so they come out on the same day." So that's where it came from. So shout out to Jameson.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well.
Sorry for calling you a serial killer.
Yep. He might be. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I do want to mention as well, before we move on to the actual episode proper, do love when Mr. Peanut Butter is like, I gotta go. My wife's hand just disappeared into that busboy's pants.
Yes. I also like they take the picture with the photo.
Yeah.
Or with the camera.
With
and
the
he goes,
photo.
yeah, we'll wait till 6 months to see if this turns out or not.
Yeah.
Because that is how cameras worked back then.
Yeah.
Crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So we get through the intro, and then we're with Sebastian St. Clair, who is not in Sokovia, but in Cordovia.
Yeah.
And he's calling Diane and saying, Diane, bring me one of those Toblerone bars.
You know, he's helping Cordovia just about as much as the Avengers helped Sokovia, though. So.
That's true. We need the Sebastian St. Clair Accords.
Yeah.
But he sewed arms back onto a kid, and they did him wrong, and he goes, are you giving me a thumbs up or a thumbs down? So basically the idea is this is an exposition trick, because it's just to tell us that Diane is going on a book tour with Bojack.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, because of wow, why can't I think of the character's name? Shit. He died doing the funky Spider-Man. Corduroy Jackson.
Yeah.
Because of Corduroy Jackson's death, they are going on a book tour because the paperback version of Bojack's book is coming out.
Yeah.
And they're in the airport, and Princess Carolyn's obviously going to go with them. And she's reading a magazine, and on the cover it says, Kirk Cameron Show canceled. And that's a callback to the first episode we met Wanda, where she was making a bunch of dated pitches, and one of them was the Kirk Cameron Show.
Okay.
So fun little
that's
lore
not,
there.
That's not good though.
Well, I mean,
show's canceled.
A Kirk Cameron show was destined to fail. So
yeah,
not great there. But Princess Carolyn gives Bojack a speech about, hey, don't go off script and offend a bunch of people like you tend to do.
Yeah.
And he goes, we're going to Alaska. How am I going to offend a bunch of inbred Eskimo blubber munchers?
I mean,
Just like one of the craziest insults I might have ever heard.
Don't say that.
Yeah, don't just whatever you do not say that. We cut to Mr. Peanut Butter, who's doing press photos for his new show.
Before we cut to that, I just want to bring up, first of all, Frank Hippopoulos is on one of the televisions in the airport.
I'm sorry, did you call him Frank?
Hank Hippopoulos.
He's Frank.
Hank Hippopoulos is on one of the televisions. And the alliteration is just, he's got a really good alliteration thing that I can't remember. But also, the important part about this is we see that the Prince of Cordovia is in town.
Oh, yes,
and
you're right.
He looks fucking just like Todd.
He looks like Todd with a mole.
Yeah.
And I thought, actually, I'll say this now, I thought that Aaron Paul voiced Prince Gustav, but I was wrong.
Oh, yeah.
It was Kevin Bigley, who's voiced a bunch of different characters in this show. But I was like, is that Aaron Paul doing like a stupid accent? No, it wasn't.
Hank Hippopoulos is like, Prince Gustav is a ruthless despot, but I'd still rather share a bed with him than my ex-wife.
Well, wait, that's not Hank. That's Tom Gumbo Jumbo.
Oh, right. Tom Gumbo Jumbo. Why did I mix those two
Jumbo
up?
Grumbo. Sorry, I'm so sorry, Tom.
Oh, because he also mentions Hank Hippopoulos, and he makes an alliteration joke. Is why.
Yes.
Why he makes an alliteration joke about Hank Hippopoulos. That's why
they write alliterations for two characters in the show a ton, and one is Princess Carolyn's actress Amy Sedaris, and the other one is Keith Olbermann, who voices Tom Jumbo Grumbo.
Yeah, Tom, the fucking whale dude.
Yeah.
Very funnily, another ex-wife. I'd rather share a bed with him than my ex-wife.
And then he immediately is like, I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
So Mr. Peanut Butter's doing press photos, and Wanda's there, and Todd's there, and they bring in Hank to do photos with them because Hank and Mr. Peanut Butter are back to back.
This is like such a fucking like accurate Hollywood like fucking variety cover. Like
right.
I can like they're standing in front of that thing like taking the pictures, and I'm like, this is that's a pose that late night hosts would do.
That's on a billboard in LA right
Absolutely,
now. Absolutely,
yeah.
Before Hank walks in, though, Todd, Mr. Peanut Butter knows he's going to walk in and is nervous, and Todd goes, I'll go get you some chili. And that's setting up what happens to Todd next, but also Mr. Peanut Butter calls chili the ultimate chillaxative, which I think is pretty funny because, chili makes me shit.
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Mr. Peanut Butter kind of freaks out about what pose he's going to do, and Hank says to him, hey, guys like us, we don't have to worry about stuff like that. And that's important because in the flashback, Mr. Peanut Butter said something to Bojack about guys like us that aren't normally up against Hanky, meaning like they're nobody compared to him. So Mr. Peanut Butter is very excited that he is called a guy like us.
Yeah,
he's a professional like Hank is.
Yeah.
So we cut to the book tour in Juneau, Alaska, where the
this bit.
Any questions for Bojack? And one guy says, in the book, it says you really like apple fritters. And everybody kind of laughs. And he goes, yes, thanks. Does Israel have the right to defend themselves?
And then it cuts to the back of the room where there's two people, one wearing a hat with like the Star of David on it, and the other person wearing a hat with fucking the Palestinian flag.
And they're both like redneck white guys.
Yeah. They're just like waiting.
But then Bojack actually gives like a pretty good answer.
Yeah.
Because the moose asks, do you think Israel has the right to defend herself, and what part should U.S. play as an ally? And he starts to talk, and then those guys turn around and like grunt at him.
Yeah.
And Bojack says, it's a shame that Arafat walked away from the table in 2000. I mean, obviously there's no panacea, but a two-state solution with an emphasis on human rights feels like a place to begin. And everybody's just kind of like, oh, yeah, well, that's not a bad answer. Wow,
but it's so funny. And it's like, because it's like you watch so many fucking talk shows and shit where they bring on like fucking people totally not qualified to be like,
right.
What do you think about our foreign policy in the Middle East? Like, it's like, don't ask fucking John
Right.
Barrowman
What does that have to
that.
do with
Like,
anything, right?
yeah. Like
Uh,
not only what does that have to do with anything, they don't fucking know. They're actors. like maybe some of them are like very passionate and learn about that, but the vast majority of them don't. Like, you
Right.
know, like they're not going to give you a nuanced and complete answer. So why are you even asking? Like it's
And well, that's not what they want, right?
no, they don't, of course.
Yeah.
But it's like,
Um,
come on.
So then I have a bit of a bit about this next part where the person says they have a question for Diane Nugent. But before I'm assuming you've met someone with the last name Wynn before,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I had this crazy moment at my job where
Okay.
I was looking through applications with some of the office staff who like call them and schedule
Yeah.
interviews for me to interview them, and there was someone with the last name Wynn,
Yeah.
and one of the girls was like, "Do you want me to call blank?" I'm not gonna say the first name.
Yeah.
Nugent, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Wait a minute. We'll call this girl. Oh my god, I almost just said her real name. We'll call her Cindy." And I was
Okay.
I was like, "Cindy, how do you say this last name?" And she's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "What?" That's like, I remember that's one of my early core memories is seeing the name Wynn and knowing how, like, learning how to say it. And then there's two other office staff that came in that are more like salespeople, and I asked them, and they didn't know how to say it either. And it blew my fucking mind. I was like, "What?" Because we live in a pretty like diverse area where I'm from.
Yeah.
And there's like probably thousands upon thousands of people with the last name Wynn in that area. And it blew my mind that they did. So like that joke, like before I might have been like, people know how to say that. That's a stupid joke. But then I like experienced 3 out of 4 people not being able to say it. And I was like, oh, okay, never mind. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, they ask if Diane was worried about damaging Bojack or hurting Bojack's feelings when writing the book. And Bojack's, that's an interesting question, because you can tell there's still some hard feelings about that.
Yeah.
And then that's when she does the Bill Cosby thing, where she lists a large amount of people, and then at the end, Hank Hippopopoulos, and somebody goes, "Wait, what's wrong with Uncle Hanky?"
Yeah.
And she goes, "Hey, Google it. Like, he's done some bad things." And then this instead of Bojack spiraling his book tour, it's Diane spiraling the book tour. And we start to get a lot of news reports from Tom. Well, we find out Prince Gustav went missing, and then when he was found, he had a bowl of chili, and he said, "Yes, I am Prince Gustav. That's me." So we can tell there's been a bit of a switch there.
Yeah, it's very clearly Todd. Todd also has
yes.
a beard, and the prince doesn't.
Yes. He introduces a character named Cardigan Burke, who's like a typical news talking head person.
Yeah.
And she says, she compares Diane's tactics to Viet Cong tactics.
Yeah.
And he goes, is that, are you making that comparison because she's in fact Vietnamese? And she goes, well, that is a coincidence, isn't it? Like the kind of like ridiculous thing that only weird talking heads on these fucking news shows would ever say, right?
Yeah. I love, he says, Hippopopoulos apologist and armchair sociologist. Yes,
they give him a lot of alliteration this episode. We cut to a different stop on the tour where I believe they're in Florida, because there's a lot of gators and swamps. But Mr. Peanut Butter calls Diane, and he's reading a website called Tip Puncher.
Yep.
And where they're talking about the things that Diane has said, and he goes, "Hey, can you please not make a big deal out of this? Like, this is going to hurt my career. If you do, it's not good timing. I want the show to go right." And she agrees with him, and she goes, "Yeah, no, you're right. I need to drop this." And as he's calling, he gets visited by Todd, peasant boy from village, which is clearly the Prince of Cordovia in Todd disguise.
Yeah.
And we check in with him from time to time, and he talks about how simple the American life is. And Mr. Peanut Butter just has no clue it's not Todd. He just can't fathom that it's not Todd. But we cut back to the book the book questioning. Why can't I think of the word?
Yeah, the like Q&As and stuff.
The Q&A and
What you got against Uncle Hanky, you uppity coos?
The alligator woman.
Yeah.
What you got against Uncle Hanky, you uppity coos? And it's Diane's trying to resist the bait. And Bojack's trying to help by saying things like, I text and drive all the time. What? Like he's trying to be controversial. But he can't. And Diane gets baited. And
they're making arguments like, well, the assistants took the money, so like it's selfish of them to take the money and then go and ruin his life with the allegations. And it's like, oh my God.
Right. It's like a crawfish man or something.
Yeah.
And she goes, ruined his life? And that sets her off. And, rightfully so. I'm not here to say that was wrong. But she definitely did not listen to Mr. Peanut Butter in this scenario. And then it escalates very quickly because suddenly we're on the news station and Diane's there arguing with Cardigan Burke. And I think Diane says something like, are all women liars? And Cardigan Burke goes, probably, we do that.
Well,
I
like
so stupid.
I liked that one. I liked fucking when Diane is like, you can't just spread this. And what's her name? What's the
Cardigan Burke.
Cardigan goes, I'll spread whatever I want. It's called one of the amendments.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Some of my notes are a little unclear on what happens next, but I do have Hammerhead Shark written down because there's a Hammerhead Shark at one point that's hammering a nail with his face.
At this point, this is when Bojack comes on the news conference.
That's right, because he's still trying to make it about himself, because of course he is.
Well, he's trying to get in trouble now. He's like, I'm not an advocate for child labor, but there are some kinds of labor that children are just better at. Right.
Yeah, he comes in and says some controversial things, but no one's taking that bait. They're all about Diane and how she's a stupid woman. Not my words. I also wrote down Dog Peanut Man, because at one point that is what the Prince of Cordovia calls Mr. Peanut Butter. And I think that's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know why we cut back to Mr. Peanut Butter at that point. Is it? It
takes a little.
He's getting like hate mail. About Diane.
Yes.
Yeah. And the Prince of Cordovia gives him some advice about.
Yeah.
He should keep his wife quiet. I'm pretty sure is where it comes from. But then we cut to Manatee Fair, where we have a Devil Wears Prada type woman in charge of Manatee Fair, but she's a manatee, and she's talking about, hey, I want to help you expose Hank Hippopopoulos, and they walk through, and there's a fruit plate joke. We women have to stick together. Fruit plate. Like, Princess Carolyn just bails instantly because she sees the fruit plate.
Yeah.
And they talk about cantaloupe, which they talked about earlier in the episode, and we skipped over. But cantaloupe is a reoccurring deal in this show, where Bojack's hatred of cantaloupe and how it shouldn't be in fruit plates. I wanted to bring it up because that is a reoccurring joke throughout this whole series.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the impetus of it, but we'll see a lot more cantaloupe jokes as time goes on. And then she says, hey, I'm going to set up a meeting with one of Hank Hippopopoulos' assistants who left us a voicemail saying, hey, we need to talk to somebody. So for some reason, they send Diane. And I know Diane's a journalist, but she doesn't work for Vanity Fair. So to me, that didn't make a ton of sense. Send her alone. But,
yeah.
We also cut to, before this, we cut to Tom again, and he's talking about a bunch of stuff that the new, unbeknownst to him, Prince of Cordovia is enacting. And I have the news ticker. I don't remember if it's this specific news one, but it's a longer one. I think it was when Cardigan and Diane were arguing and Bojack walks in. I have everything on the news ticker. So I think this is appropriate time to read that.
Okay.
Here we go. Prince Gustav introduces sweeping reforms to Cordovian legislator. Uses salad fork as back scratcher. Lab rat union files class action lawsuit against scientists. Comical misunderstanding leads to royal wedding for Prince Gustav. Sponsored headline. Scientists declare chicken for days, new glut bucket, part of a balanced breakfast. Cordovian Prince Gustav wins silly dance contest. Cordovian peasants starve. Police find that mandatory body cams are great for taking selfies. Food fight at Cordovian embassy reminds stuffy old dignitaries how to have fun. Take a job at MSNBC, they said. You can still write novels on the weekend, they said. Hot new fad taking America's youth by storm. The measles. And then Cordovian rebels seize capital. So Todd, through the context clues, if you're paying attention, Todd has been causing havoc.
Yes.
For the Cordovian prince.
He's going to say something later as well.
But I love this. They show Tom on the TV, and he mentioned something that Todd did as the Prince of Cordovia. And then he kind of brushes it off and goes, back to our main story. What is Diane's problem?
Yeah.
Which I just think is the funniest fucking thing.
And when he says that, he cuts back to, so this is something that had already been set up. Just, they very quickly set it up. Diane is going to meet with one of Hank's assistants.
Yeah, his current assistant.
His current assistant. And the car pulls up and Hank steps out. And then it cuts to Tom saying all this stuff.
Oh, you're right.
And then it goes back to Hank and Diane, and they're meeting like in a fucking garage with like a tape recorder. It's very, so I want to tell you about the mistake that I just made. And the mistake that I just made, this is a reference to like fucking extremely famous when the Watergate scandal was being broke.
Yeah.
The informant met in parking garage with Bob Woodard. And I was trying to remember the informant's name so I could reference it on the podcast. And I just was like, oh, God, what was it Deep Throat? And I just
what?
Because that is his name. That was his name. The pseudonym was Deep Throat. But I just looked up Deep Throat without like Watergate or like reporter.
Shawn, you just typed Deep Throat into your Google search? Oh no.
I thought it would bring up the important historical figure. It did not. It did not.
Oh no. Anyway, Deep Throat aside.
But yes, they're clearly drawing a connection to infamous Deep Throat.
Yes.
Oh,
Shawn. So basically, I mean, I have the whole conversation here, but I don't think we need to read it word for word. But basically, he just says, "Hey, I didn't do any of the things you're accusing me of. I'm not meeting you because I'm scared of you." And she says, I think you are. And he goes, "I'm not a bad guy. And the news cycle is going to move on to something else. I'll go back to host my dance show, which employs hundreds of nice, good people. You, on the other hand, are done. People aren't going to forgive you." And she's like, he even says, "So why don't you call it a day and go home to your husband?" Which is like a veiled threat of, "Hey, I know your husband is on this other show. I can get him, canceled."
Yeah.
And she says, "I know who you are." And he goes, "Sweetheart, everyone knows who I am. I'm Hank Hippopopoulos. Who the hell are you?" And he gets in his car and leaves. So did not turn out the way Diane wanted it to. Pretty menacing and spooky.
Yeah.
She goes back to what were you gonna say?
I would say we go back to the
Vanity
office.
Fair.
Yeah.
And the head of Vanity Fair, whose name escapes me, says her parent company, AOL, Time Warner, PepsiCo, Viacom, Halliburton, Skynet, Toyota, Trader Joe's, doesn't want her pursuing this because it's not a good story.
Yeah.
So basically, they own the same network that is doing So You Think You Can Dance and Hollywood stars and celebrities. What do they know? Do they know things? Let's find out.
Yeah.
She offers her a JoJo, which is the Trader Joe's version of Oreos. Make up for it, but she does not want the JoJo. We end up on the street with Diane and Bojack.
Yeah.
After, and it turns into Bojack kind of criticizing Diane and saying, hey, you've ruined this tour for me, and you've never apologized for being reading the stuff you wrote about me in the book, and that's weird. As this is happening, Todd jumps out of the Cordovian embassy that just happens to be there, and he's trying to be like, guys, I need your help, and they're like, Todd, shut up. They just have no time for Todd here.
He says that they've committed a genocide in his name.
Yes. I had a guy approach me and say, the thing that we did is still on, right? And I said yes, and he said, dear God, as he walked away.
Dear God.
And he keeps interrupting to say, and they just could not give two shits about what he's doing, because normally Todd is just doing a romp, right?
Yeah, Bojack even is like, he spent the last few days a Burning Man or something, and Todd is like, dear God, no.
Yeah. Diane finally apologizes for handling the book the way she did, which is a big deal to Bojack, and he's wanted that apology. I have a note here, and I have no recollection of what it is, so I'm just going to read it to you. You can't, you stupid, ugly can't. Oh, I get it now. She reads a letter with Mr. Peanut Butter that says that, and he goes, that doesn't say can't. Because it clearly says cunt.
Yeah.
But Mr. Peanut Butter and her have this conversation where he's like, hey, I asked you not to do this. You can't, maybe you should go to Cordovia, do some good so you feel better about yourself. And they have this long conversation about it. But at the end, he says that, and she goes, you really want me to leave? And he says, why does it suddenly matter what I want? And Mr. Peanut Butter dropping some hard to swallow truth pills there.
Yeah.
It's a very, because she did just kind of with reckless abandon, and his point is why does this have to be you? Why do you have to be the one to stand up to him? And it's because she just has this innate nature to want to do the right thing, or at least what looks like the right thing, right? But it's hurting who she loves, and so he says she at the end of the episode has a big Toblerone bar and is in the airport and is ready to go to Cordovia.
Going to Cordovia. And then the show gets fucking the show it goes to the news thing where they're talking about Kanye West claims to hate Thin Mints. Our panel is outraged.
Yeah. So they're on to the next big stupid thing, right?
And Cardigan says, hating Thin Mints? Is he legally insane? It's like, oh.
Shawn, I don't like Thin Mints.
Well, I don't. It's not the Thin Mints thing. I also don't like Thin Mints. But it's like, ooh, you guys really picked Kanye for this, huh?
Yeah, ahead of their time.
Ahead of their time. Which I think at this point, because I think they're referencing with this bit, I'm going to let you finish, Taylor.
Yeah, he's already started to show a little bit, so it wasn't that crazy of a call, but I don't think anybody predicted he'd be where he's at now.
No. Dear God, no.
And I don't think anybody would have predicted that. And he was popular to pick on at the time because I think this is maybe a couple years later, but there was the South Park Gay Fish episode.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you don't know that episode?
No, I don't. I've only seen a couple episodes of South Park.
It's a really funny satire of Kanye because basically this joke starts going around. The joke becomes viral of, hey, so here's this. I'll tell you the joke and you see how you feel about it. Hey, Shawn, do you like fish sticks?
No, actually.
What are you, a gay fish? You're supposed to say yes, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's the joke, right?
Yeah,
but Kanye can't take it not literally. Like he gets someone says the joke to him and he's mad and he starts holding press conferences of like, I am in fact not a gay fish. Like he can't, he can't take a joke, and that's the whole point. They're making fun of him. And at one point in the press conference, it's so fucking funny. He does this big speech about how he's not even a fish, so he couldn't possibly be a gay fish. He's not attracted to other male fish. Like, this whole thing. And then somebody in the crowd goes, Kanye, a question for you. Do you like fish sticks? And he just, like, without missing a beat, goes, love them. And then they go, what are you, a gay fish? And then eventually at the end of the episode, he writes a song, and it's super auto-tuned because it's like 808s and Heartbreaks era Kanye.
Yeah.
And it's about him being a gay fish. I'm a motherfucking gay fish. Like, they have this whole thing where he's like swimming in the ocean, kissing fish, and it's like, it's so fucking stupid, but it's such a good satire of Kanye at the time. And they fucking South Park, the creator of South Park did this concert recently within the last 6 months.
Okay.
Where they played all the songs from South Park that they wrote over the years, and they fucking did Gay Fish, and it was fucking hilarious. Anyway, that was my little. I don't watch a lot of South Park these days anymore either, but that episode is super fucking funny.
Okay. Yeah, good to know.
But now that I got on this tangent, I do want to mention that at the end, they say they're moving on to the next thing, and Diane's just kind of sitting there, and then the guy sitting next to her just looks at her and goes, "Hey, smile."
God.
Which it's like, oh, that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on. The thing she was trying to stand up for, just she made no difference.
Yeah.
She made no difference, and she hurt someone she loves. You know what I mean? And that sucks.
Yeah.
And that's how the episode ends. Gay fish aside. So, I really like this episode, Shawn.
I like it a lot as well.
Yeah. I wasn't saying you didn't, but you were kind of giving me the vibe that you did.
Well,
so.
I'm gonna punch you. How about that?
Oh.
Oh.
Okay. I'll see you at Reconnect, motherfucker.
In the cage match, dude.
Yeah, we'll see how big your game talking is when you see me face to face, buddy.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm sorry I made a bad joke. Please don't hit me. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Let's get to the categories. I think my favorite animal-based joke is probably the hammerhead shark, even though it's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
But him just nailing that nail in with his own head is hilarious to me. What about you?
At one point, I think we see, I think it's in this episode. I think there's a part where we see, like, when they're at the airport, we see birds, like, landing.
Yes.
I think I like it when the birds land. I think it's funny.
It's simple, but it works. Yeah. What's your favorite bit?
It's all the Hank Hippopopoulos alliteration. My favorite.
You mean the Tom Jumbo Grumbo?
Yeah. But they're talking about Hank Hippopopoulos when they do the alliteration. My favorite one is when they talk about the Vox Hippopopuli.
Yeah. Oh boy. My favorite bit is probably the bit towards the end where Todd's just trying to tell him about all this. Like, because normally we see the hilarity Todd gets into, but this B plot, it's you just kind of, they use context clues and just like every once in a while they mention it. So Todd trying to explain to him that he's actually in trouble this time, but we didn't get to see it is a pretty funny bit to me.
Yeah.
And that they just want nothing to do with it because they're just trying to solve their own personal problems.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of a metaphor for the whole episode, I guess. But I'll say that's my favorite bit. And then do you have a quote?
I really liked there are some kinds of labor that children are just better for. Or better at. That's exactly my kind of humor. Just because it's outrageous. So I really like that. I like that line a lot.
I'm gonna say it's actually I misspoke earlier. I said cantaloupe is the fruit he hates. It's honeydew.
Yes.
But I have his quote about honeydew.
Okay.
God damn it, honeydew. Jesus, why does cantaloupe think every time he gets invited to a party, it can bring along its dumb friend honeydew? You don't get a +1 cantaloupe. So that's I got, he says cantaloupe a couple times, so I got it mixed up, but it's honeydew that he hates. And that will be brought up again in many episode. All right, I guess that's it for this episode.
We did it.
We did it. Next episode is called Let's Find Out. Bojack Horseman is a contestant on Mr. Peanut Butter's new game show, facing off against a mystery, bigger celebrity contestant.
Very excited for this episode.
This episode has an 8.8 on IMDb.
I'm excited.
Do you want a hint on who the celebrity, the
Yeah,
more
yeah,
famous celebrity is?
And we'll see if I can guess.
What's a good hint that doesn't give it away?
Their name rhymes with Badam Fiver.
No, it is not Adam Driver. This celebrity is known for a certain character in a very big series, but more recently has been kind of an indie guy. Also, Tatiana Maslany is in it. This
I like
episode.
her.
Yeah, I do too. She's She-Hulk, by the way.
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
Egg. She-Hulk. She-Hulk's here.
She-Hulk. All right, that should give us some plays.
Do you have a guess?
Oh God, they're more recently.
It's a very vague hint, but
more recently known for their indie work. I don't have a guess. I feel like when I see it, I'll be like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait till next episode.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening and watching. Shawn, where can people find you?
You guys follow me on Twitter at Shawn_AFK.
And you can follow me on Twitter at SpikeGhetti Bros and on twitch.tv/Super SpikeGhetti Bros. Thank you guys for listening and watching. We will see you next week.
Suck a dick, dumb shits.
You're getting better at that. That was a good one.
Thank you.